Yeah, and so I think Anna's character, like, it was just the actress who did it. I believe her name is Cara Brown. She did it in such a way I was like, man, I'd watch a whole spin-off of just like going through her life,
Literally.
her upbringing. She's funny. Like she was just did really good. And so that I just want to give a special shout out to her.
Dion Waiters
Obviously didn't
Award.
have the
The
yes, the
Dion Waiters Award
Dion
has been given.
yes.
Absolutely. And I'll get into most memorable scenes. I had the handsome devil scene, also front of the head. She's my wife. The table scene, white man's money. Also, Ernest revealing Molly was pregnant. Bill and Rhea's house exploding. Then finally, Ernest testifying about the truth of the Osage murders. To you, what were some of the scenes, or maybe one in particular, that kind of like was the standout for you?
Man, one scene that I thought was incredible. Like, oh, this was one that during the movie I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely like just tear up and everything during this part too was whenever Molly's mom passes.
Oh my goodness! And she gets up and
Yeah, she just gets up because I was sitting there and I was like, oh, she passed. Like she's those are her other relatives, those are her ancestors, and she just kind of she gets up and walks with them. And I guess that almost there's a part of me that wished that could be a critique too, that there could have been some more of that. Because there was one part of that where that was like that is such a hopeful kind of note in the whole movie that even though so much um, pain and so much awfulness is going on, there's this kind of like peace that she has in what's happening to her after her death. And just the way they did it, it was like it didn't seem too weird and like this light shines down and you're
yeah.
hearing, stuff. It was just so it was a really beautiful scene and it was so kind of just quick and there and I was just like, man, that was a good reminder kind of for that with everything else feeling so ominous and dark,
Mhm.
in the movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that scene.
Absolutely. And I'll get into the most memorable quotes I had. Expecting a miracle to make this all go away from William Hill. Also, they don't happen anymore from William. I ain't foolish because I've done everything right from Ernest. Money flows freely here now. No one needs to be quiet for a wild storm. It's well, it's powerful. I need you here from Molly. Don't do something you're going to regret for the rest of your life. And finally, have you told all the truths? That closing scene with Molly and Ernest, I thought was really gripping, and just a powerful way to have one of the closing scenes be. What were some of the quotes in here that you felt as though were like the most kind of thought provoking?
Man, like compared to a lot of movies, and especially one from Scorsese, there wasn't a ton of just particular dialogue
Yeah.
that like was memorable or stuck out to me in a way that it might normally. Um, there's one though that I think, and it's funny because it's gonna sound so simple, but I think really sums up some of the relationship between Ernest and Molly, and subsequently a lot of relationships even between what could be seen as well-meaning white people who have interacted with tribes. As whenever he talked about how he, at the end of the day, what he loves is money,
Yes.
um, and you love someone else up to the point that it interferes with that. And I almost wanted to write something, and I still might, but like about how William Hale, like the Robert De Niro character, is could easily be seen as representative of those who are the very direct, malicious, we're trying to take your land and take your money type people who exist.
Yeah.
And Leo's character can be seen as those who are like, no, we still like you, we respect you, we don't have personal animosity to you. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like I'm still
Different.
looking out for my interests.
Hmm.
And if it hurts you, so be it. And so him saying that just kind of like, because you see it, you can see a little glint in his eye, you can see that smile when he's like, "Well, I do love money." Like,
Yes.
he even more than whenever he was getting excited about how much he loved women. Like the way he
Almost
said that,
almost everything could go back to that quote. Almost everything could go back to that quote. At the end of the day, what it was like that scene in there, that introduction was like, yeah, this is what he's about. This is
yeah,
what he's gonna do. He's gonna do anything for it.
hmm
Um,
absolutely.
and now getting to kind of like what did you like the most about the storyline? To me, how this movie was constructed, almost like a puzzle. Each creative piece, formed the whole picture, and when you put it together at the end with that montage of Scorsese coming in, commemorating Molly and everything that happened, I thought that was a great way to put it together. He really knew how to construct the emotional parts, and also, hey, this is, we're gonna remember the murders that happen, the inhumane moments of the entire story. What particular element of this storyline did you kind of like the most?
I think one that's underrated or overlooked, or potentially maybe someone has it a critique and they could say it could have been more explicit. I thought it was done well. Was the progressively um, how he progressively showed that it wasn't just because one or two people are doing something. I mean, you see it very obviously, and this is where I was discussing it with someone, but I was like, hey, at the very end, when he's about to testify, it's the whole community telling him not to. It wasn't just his uncle. It was the shop owner, the police. It was the doctors who were poisoning people. It was the whole community. It wasn't
They were all
just.
in on it. Yeah.
Yes, and they even give the slight reference to what happened in Tulsa, with Black Wall Street, and then they reference that, and they show, I mean, they show the Klan like marching with them, and them knowing them, like all the people, just like, hey, buddy,
Yeah.
um, that kind of stuff. I think showing throughout this story, kind of anchoring it in those people, and getting you kind of interested in their dynamic and their relationship, but then showing how that exists in a society that is still going to just want your stuff, but not necessarily you. And I've heard, a lot of in America, obviously, a lot of Black people I know talk about that, about how they like our music and they like the way we dress. They'll like the stuff we produce, but they might not
They're
like
not us.
us.
They're not us. Yeah.
Yes,
I love what
exactly.
you
And
can
so
do. I love what you can do, but I don't really like you. Yeah.
yeah, because like you see, even bro, even I mean, Hale even speaks Osage. I mean, a lot of Osage don't speak Osage. Like
Hmm.
it's the fact that he was appreciative of this, and you'll hear, man, I'll hear. It's so random, but you'll hear the most racist white dude. Like I'll hear the most racist person still talk in a weirdly admirable way about natives at times, but in a way that we're not even existing. They talk about us like a mythical creature. It'll be like that. They're like, we admire your da 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 da, and yet, at the end of the day, people are still going to be complicit to the degree it benefits them, even at the expense of others. And I think the movie did really well at showing that storyline without it feeling just super preachy.
Yeah.
And
It
some
can,
people say, hey, it should have been more explicit. But to me, I like, if you lead with the preaching and not the art of storytelling, then you just write a nonfiction book, or do a podcast, or do a research, or do a documentary. You know what I mean? Like it should lead with the quality of how good it is, and within that you're able to see what it's doing, and how it unfolds. And I think that was done really, really well.
oh yeah, definitely. And now getting to our next topic, 10 years from now, do you still think it'll be watchable and intriguing? I feel as though it will, because these performance, like it's controversial. Obviously, it's going to have some people, heated for a long time. But I think these performances are going to be long lasting. I think the story was necessary. This is one I want to. I don't know how many times you've seen it, but this is one I want to go see again, just to see how that second viewing is. And I feel as though